Hello there. What is going on, everyone? We're talking about Star Wars Armada today and all of the news that came out of Adepticon and AMG's panel there. They talked about a lot of different games. They did a live stream already talking about Star Wars Armada, Rapid Reinforcements 2 confirmed. We're going to take a look at what we know and the previews and some assumptions that we can kind of piece together through everything that has been talked about at Adepticon. But boy, it's it's nice to have a little bit of kind of an infusion of a little bit of new Armada content, just a little bit to hold us over. I know a lot of fans want a lot more than we're getting, but a lot of us were also prepared for a lot less. So it kind of lands somewhere in between. Either way, it's kind of exciting because we got new Armada to talk about. Can you believe it, folks? New Armada to talk about. It's a lovely, lovely day to be an Armada fan. If you guys are new here to the channel, we talk a lot about Star Wars tabletop games, Star Wars Armada, Star Wars X-Wing, Legion, Shatterpoint, other Star Wars stuff, lightsaber reviews, costume, cosplay reviews, all kinds of cool stuff. If it's geeky, nerdy, and especially if it's got a science fiction theme, we're probably going to talk about it on this channel. Also, we are doing a massive Star Wars Shatterpoint giveaway right now in the form of a $165 Amazon gift card. If you want to have a chance to enter to win that, you just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. I want to hear one of your favorite the Armada ships and what are some of your predictions for Rapid Reinforcements and what's on your wish list for the future for Armada. Those are some of the topics we can talk about today. If you haven't already joined our Discord, we got links in the video description below. You can also head over to Crabbok.com, get some free Armada content there. We've got some homebrew expansions that I've made for you guys. Also the AI system, if you want to practice a build playing against yourself, you got a solo AI-driven system that you can, it's totally free. You can go check it out, print it out, make cards, or even roll a die to however you'd like to do it. But it's basically a card-driven AI system. It's a great way to test out some fleets before you bring them to the next big store championship tournament. So speaking of all those great things, tournaments and all those other news, let's start off talking about some of the early stuff. AMG was talking about all their other games. They pulled out this slide and they're like, oh, they're actually going to talk about Armada. This was really exciting, and I'm like, okay, they actually set aside some time to talk about Armada. Now, we do know that Rapid Reinforcements, there's at least one more planned. Will Schick talked about that on my interview. He also confirmed that with Ion Radio, and so we have that. But what we didn't know is that they're also kicking off a whole new season of store championships, regionals, and eventually like a whole new Worlds season. So there will be lots more Armada tournaments. And they're getting back to the old style of actually having store championships again, which is a really exciting time that stores are going to be getting Armada tournament kits, and your local stores that used to have Armada tournaments and that have been kind of changing it up. It's like, how are we going to do, giveaways and stuff for all of this, or what are we going to do for prize support? Well, now you're going to actually have some official prize support, and that is a very, very cool thing. Really excited about these store championship kits, because for a while we had gotten away from store championships and it was only like regionals or higher for a long time. So having those local store level championships, though, to go have a competitive tournament to plan for and go and attend and like practice your builds for, it's just a very exciting season. Of course, if you win one of these, you will get a Worlds invite, and if you win a higher level above store championship, you're going to get like if you win a regional tournament or higher, you'll get a better Worlds invite, so like a Worlds invite with a buy. They haven't announced like grand championships or like nationals or whatever, things like that, but in the past, some of those have come with like basically a free trip to Worlds where they kind of jazz it up a little bit with some fancy stuff. But either way, I'll wait until they announce anything above, above the store championships. But they did say that there would also be regionals and presumably other types of tournaments as well, possibly. But either way, a Worlds invite is a very cool thing. So we got to look at some of the promos that will be in the store championship kit. We're getting engineering captains and flight commanders. We're going to be getting different commanders for every faction. So Leia for the Rebels, Thrawn for the Empire, General Grievous for the Separatists, and Luminara for the Republic. So very cool, depending on whatever faction you prefer. And there's also going to be Suntir Fel as well as some of the new Rapid Reinforcements cards. A really cool thing is they actually printed out all the Rapid Reinforcements cards from Rapid Reinforcements 1, and we're giving those out to folks at who played in the Worlds tournament. So if you were at Adepticon and participated, yeah, I believe you got a printed out set of these. I know a lot of folks have been doing print runs of their own Rapid Reinforcement stuff, but it's nice to see AMG doing these as well. I kind of always like to have the official cards too, so I really kind of hope to see more print runs of these. I'd like to get a set at some point. Hopefully I'll get to go to Worlds next year and maybe end up with some cool promos. Those are always nice to have. Now, if you do win, you're going to get that Worlds invite, and it'll look kind of like this right here, with Leia saying, "We can do it." On the back side of this, they decided to double it, because I believe they said this was like a 4x6, so larger kind of postcard size Worlds invite. On the back side is going to be a Super Star Destroyer Executor 2. So the most expensive version, the fanciest and most deadly Super Star Destroyer they have, is on the back there. And so that's a nice way to kind of make double use of your Worlds invite. Just hopefully you don't have to turn that in, to gain entrance. But no, very, very cool idea for the back of the invite. It's that really nice, super rare and distinguished Executor 2. Although, granted, you can't run that in standard games, but hey, you know what? 600 points is a popular thing to do from time to time, so hopefully we'll see more 600-point games in the future. I do love running a 600-point game of Star Wars Armada, so that's fun. But the big news was, and Wilshick did say he can't say much, but he does have a little bit to talk about, and that's Rapid Reinforcements 2. So that's cool. That kind of sounds like the door is open for more Armada stuff. Again, I don't think we should be expecting anything major anytime soon. I still don't know if they're going to do actual new ship expansions. I mean, if you look at like what X-Wing and God is, they're getting mostly card expansions or reprints. We're not really seeing like all new ship designs coming. So I don't know if we're going to get that. And I don't know if granted that could really be helpful for at least another wave of Clone Wars ships. But considering where Armada's at right now, card packs are definitely meaningful content. I think they are. And having Rapid Reinforcements 2 come out for the game is going to be really exciting. We're going to be getting some new stuff. We do have a preview of Governor Price here. Now, we do know one thing about we know a couple of things about Rapid Reinforcements 2. One thing we know is that Will Schick did say in an interview with Ion Radio, they did say that it was going to be smaller in scale than Rapid Reinforcements 1. That's a little bit of a bummer. I'm not going to lie, that's a little bit of a bummer because Rapid Reinforcements 1 was already pretty small in scale. It was only 7 cards. And we're kind of getting, you can see 3 cards in the preview there with artwork in the background for a 4th card, which leads many to believe it's only 4 cards. Only 1 card per faction. I hope it's more than that, while admittedly it'll probably be less than 7, so I'm hoping it's either like 5 or 6 at least. I'm hoping for 5, and I'm going to walk you through it. We'll talk about what we can see here. So we've got Governor Price at the front. I'll talk about her in a minute because she's interesting. I'm not sure if this is the final versions of these cards either, because on all the cards that we can see, if you look in the bottom right, there is a let me zoom in a little bit here. This is going to be interesting. Let me zoom in. If we look at the bottom right, you can see a little. There we go. Right about here, you can see a little 2.0, a little 2.0, kind of right there in the bottom right of these cards. And you can't see the bottom right of the far left card because it's covered up by the other cards. But there's a little 2.0 there. Now I don't know if that really means much, right? My first thought when I saw that was like, wait a second, is this like a dog whistle? Is this a little hint that maybe we're getting an Armada 2.0? That could be terrifying and exciting at the same time because you never know. And the rules, I mean, Armada's in a pretty decent place competitively. It does have some things that probably need to change, and if it needs some points rebalancing and maybe a little errata, possibly some minor rules revisions. I don't know if it needs a whole 2.0 though, but if you were to combine all of those together, if you were to lump Rapid Reinforcements in there, a few minor rules tweaks, and some points adjustments, you could probably lump all that together as a 2.0, but I don't really think that's in the works right now. I mean, it could be maybe a distant plan, but I don't think they're getting ready to announce a 2.0. I don't think they would have done that through like a little Easter egg on a card right here. I think what's more likely is it's probably that this is like version 2.0 of this card. Like perhaps the Governor Price card and the other cards in this set have been through multiple revisions. You know, version 1.0 being the initial run, and then after playtesting 1.1, 1.2, okay, we think we have it finalized. Let's push version 2.0. Let's reveal this to the world and see if we need to do like a 2.1 before we release it or something like that. That's my guess. That's probably what that 2.0 means. But I'm not the expert. I'm not the authority. I guess we'll have to wait and see because none of the other rapid reinforcements had a little number on that, at least not in the versions that we saw. So it'll be interesting to see when this gets released. They are aiming for like the end of spring or beginning of summer. I'm guessing around May the 4th. That's what I'm guessing. We know that there's going to be some announcements. They said there's going to be some stuff May the 4th, 5th, and 6th. So it's entirely possible that we might see maybe a mini extravaganza similar type of event around that weekend, and maybe that'll be the time we either get a more in-depth preview of Rapid Reinforcements 2 or get the whole thing dumped. It's possible. I don't know. I'm excited. It's a great time to be hyping up Armada and looking forward to what the future holds. So that 2.0 thing there, it might not mean much, but it's still interesting to hypothesize because I think it allows us to explore the conversation a little bit more. What would a 2.0 for Armada look like? I think it's something to think about because if you look at what has happened with the other games, it's entirely possible that that could happen. And I'm not automatically opposed to that. I think there's a discussion to be had. So with that being said, let's talk about the cards here. Let's start with Governor Price. She's on the front. She's our Imperial card. Maybe the only Imperial card in this set. She's an officer. She is unique. She costs 7 points, so a little expensive for an officer. She says, once per activation, while performing an attack against an enemy ship, you may spend 1 shield from the attacking hull zone to change 1 die face to any result. So this is a strong card. Imperial ships usually attack from the front. Imperial ships usually have a lot of shields in the front. This is restricted in a way that once you lose shields, all of a sudden you can't use her anymore. So that's something to consider, or at least from the zone you want to. If you lose all your shields in the front, then all of a sudden you can't use her anymore from that zone. So that's definitely something to think about. But your typical, I think like an iconic use of her might be on a Star Destroyer, like a Moon or something, like going for that big front shot, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, I can guarantee the accuracy this way, which is a big thing. To any result is a very, very strong wording because that means you can be a double, a crit and a hit on a black die. It can be a double damage on a red die. It can be an accuracy on a red or blue die, but probably a red die because the red dice are the only ones that consistently give you blanks. So, because black dice ships usually run with a lot of black die reroll ability or ways to manufacture those crits. Red dice are the ones you tend to need that dice manipulation the most on. So I figure Governor Price is someone who is going to be used primarily for those red dice changes. However, you look a little further and you're like, well, she's going to be working primarily on an Onager, which is the most broken ship in the game, and she's going to make that just a little bit more overpowered than it already is. And that's kind of problematic. The Onager tends to lead to a lot of feel-bad experiences when you're playing the game, and having a guaranteed accuracy on a ship that can shoot, pretty much anywhere means like, oh, your flotilla is dead on turn 1. Like I don't care if you got a scatter or whatever. I can 100% guarantee the accuracy. That's a little bit problematic. It's a little bit problematic. If this isn't the final version of the card, I'd hope that they maybe put a little bit more of a qualifier on here on. Basically like either a non-ignition attack or an attack at range 1 to 5, or rather a close, medium, or long range attack. So I don't think we need to enhance ignition attacks any more than they already are. That's a big problem. But if she could just, if she was restricted at least to a regular long range, then that puts a little bit of risk on her card, because now that means you might get fired upon in return. So the spending of those shields is now a risk. The Onager has 5 shields in the front, and it's firing from so far away, you're never getting shot at back, right? So that's really rough. You have to kind of think, oh, she's going to be wicked on an Onager, and that's what every Imperial player is going to put her on. Now, the trade-off, why if she goes in as is, why I say it might not be that broken, is a lot of a lot of Onagers already run with a lot of dice mitigation and dice manipulation. Anyway, Gunnery in Chief Varnelian, there's another a weapons team that can also manufacture an accuracy. So there's other ways to do that. So she's not like the first ever way to kind of guarantee the accuracy, or the first way to get that accuracy. Also, you're losing your officer slot, and a lot of Onagers will sometimes run Intel Officer. You kind of have to give up the ability to run Intel Officer, which if you're doing like a first round shot and you're like, oh, I got a big hit on you, are you going to scatter? Because then it'll be gone. That's also kind of a feels bad. So there's a little bit of an opportunity cost in her taking up your officer slot, but she's probably the best officer for an Onager by a long shot. I mean, Intel Officer situationally, depending on what, maybe you're trying to save points, because granted she's more expensive, but then you might not have to run that second weapons team. There's ways to do it, but she's going to be really, really good on an Onager. Now, if you take her, if you were, for example, if you couldn't use her on an Onager, or at least couldn't use her on ignition attacks, I think she becomes a lot more balanced and a lot more risk versus reward. I love the dice fixing that she has, but the Empire already has some dice fixing anyway. You got Vader Officer you can have on your fleet to give you extra rerolls. Krennic Officer, I love Krennic Officer. 2 Star Destroyers, one with Krennic, one with Price. I love that, right? So there's ways to run her without it being like the worst possible way. I like her in basically every other way. I think she'd actually be really cool on a Demolisher with the red die, the Gladiator 2 Demolisher. All of a sudden, hey, now I got this crazy attack, but I also got the accuracy, what Demolishers never have. So there's ways to run her, and if you run her on anything other than that ignition attack from the Onager, she could be a really cool character. So I think if they can fine tune her enough that it doesn't work for the ignition attack, I think you got a pretty cool character right there. Very, very cool. What else do we have? Well, we can talk the most about Price. There's a lot of other stuff we can only talk a little bit about. I want to start and talk on her right side, the card that has me the most excited, and my number 1 most wanted card of all time. We don't know for sure, but it's probably Anakin Skywalker. Probably Anakin Skywalker. It is definitely a Republic commander. 29 points, that's a commander. It's got the Republic symbol there. A new commander. Oh my gosh, how many times have I been saying we need a new commander? Not just for the Republic, but Separatists need a new commander too. We need like probably at least 2 or 3 more commanders for the Clone Wars factions to kind of make them balanced out, but at least 1 more. And the Republic need it the most, because they have 6 commanders, half of them are all squadron based, and so you really don't have an offensive ship-to-ship commander. Anakin Skywalker would fit that bill perfectly. Arguably Mace Windu would also, but this one looks like it's going to be Anakin Skywalker, because it looks like that's Rex in the background of the card art there. So if that's Rex, then we have plenty of good things to talk about. You can see, boom, there he is. There's Rex, right? So if Rex is in the art, it's probably Anakin. You can also see here it says something friendly, attack, friendly. Yes, it may do something. So friendly ships attack, then you may do something, right? So like that sounds like exactly what the doctor ordered. I've been asking for something. I've been asking for an Anakin Skywalker that would be an offensive ship-to-ship. I also have thought that he'd be really cool if he was like a standalone. Like, I'm leading the charge, and maybe he'll still function that way. But I definitely want to be able to build Republic lists that aren't squadron heavy, and it's hard to do that because they really favor squadrons so much. And I'd like an Anakin that doesn't want to put his clones flying in squadrons at risk, that he wants to put himself at the forefront, at the tip of the spear. I'm really hoping that he does that. 29 points is not cheap. So, but it's kind of mid-level, So I'm like, I'm all right. I'm digging it. But I can't wait to see what he does. Let's move over to the other side. Behind Governor Price on the far left of your screen, you're going to see a Rebel squadron. That is a Gauntlet fighter, by the way. a gauntlet fighter. We can't see much about it. We have to assume it's based off of a standard gauntlet fighter. So so there's certain assumptions that we can make on a gauntlet fighter, right? Like, for example, it's probably speed 4, probably 7 hull. The dice could be different because the dice will change a lot between different gauntlets, especially if it's Ezra Bridger. I'm guessing it's going to be Ezra Bridger, but it could be Bo-Katan. There's a lot of different things you could do. I'm thinking Ezra Bridger, and that would be interesting because Ezra's a really good officer for the Rebels, allowing you to move, uses the Force and move stuff around. So it's possible. Now, a lot of people are seeing the far left and like, wait, this looks like an N. Somebody thought it was like Night Brother. I don't believe it's Night Brother. I believe what it says there is M. I believe you're looking at an M for Mandalorian Gauntlet Fighter. If you pull up the Mandalorian Gauntlet Fighter for the Empire, it's the exact same positioning. Just swap out the Empire for Rebel, and then it matches up perfectly. So it's almost certainly a Mandalorian Gauntlet Fighter. Whoever is in that, if it's obviously, you can see the beginning of a little triangle above the M, which means it's a unique. So you're not looking at a generic. You're looking at a unique squadron. So it's a Rebel in a Mandalorian Gauntlet Fighter. Considering Governor Price is also from the Star Wars Rebels era, I'm guessing it's going to be Ezra Bridger. If it's not Ezra Bridger, it's probably Bo-Katan. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my money on Ezra Bridger. I'm guessing it's Ezra Bridger. And so that's cool. It's hard to see. You can see something like when, completes something. You may choose something, distance, as if something. So that doesn't tell us very much. If it's Ezra, it might deal with moving obstacles. It might not have anything to do with moving obstacles. Ezra was instrumental in the Battle of Adepticon by escaping in the Gauntlet Fighter to go get help. So maybe he's able to kind of break free of other folks or whatever. But what we can't see is that he has assault and escort. Now, a Gauntlet Fighter with escort is pretty interesting. Escort is powerful for the Rebels as a faction. There's a lot of other mechanics that work with escort. And you also got really cool things like Jan Orrs, who's like, oh yeah, attack the escort. You can use Jan's braces, by the way, so you can brace. You can get a lot of free braces on a 7-hull ship. So Ezra's going to be strong if that is Ezra in there. Very, very cool. Again, a lot we don't know about what's on that card, what it's going to cost, what defense tokens it's going to have. I'm guessing braces. I don't see it having evade. Maybe double brace, or maybe I don't see it having scatter. It could have evade. I could see maybe evade and brace or double brace. That's what I'm guessing. I don't see it having redirect though. I always thought it would be cool if they had salvo too. It would be an interesting. Because in theory, you could give a squadron salvo. I mean, I don't see why not. That would be weird, wouldn't it? I think that'd be really weird. I think it'd be cool. I think it'd be a fun thing to do. It's worth experimenting with. I mean, so the mechanics are there. But I said there is at least 4 cards. So you're like, well, where's the 4th card? Look at the background art. You're seeing Wat Tambor and a Belbalub. And so this is a good thing. The Separatists don't really get a whole lot of attention on Belbalubs. One of the reasons is, and they can, right? The Belbalubs aren't very good, in my opinion. You do have Grievous in the Belbalub. Grievous is nice. He's 2 black and 2 blue against squadrons. He's a good squadron killer, which is cool. He's got a great ability that really wants to eat up enemy squadrons. That's also cool. He's got relay. And he's got screen. Screen is an interesting ability, but here's why Grievous doesn't work in the Belbalub for me. That whole deal kind of wants to have a lot of other vultures around him. You want to have at least a moderate squadron presence to run him. And you're designed to counter enemy squadrons. And so if you're like, the whole concept of like Grievous and the Belbalub is like, oh, we're going to shred through your enemy squadrons, but I have to bring a lot of squadrons of my own. So in order to do that, I have to have a lot of squadrons. And if I have a lot of squadrons, I'm better off having Grievous as my commander as opposed than having him in a Belbalub. So like it just doesn't pass the common sense test there, sense test. So instead they give us Wat Tambor in the Belbalub, which works on a number of levels because first off, the Belbalub is a ship that can support organic life. So that works. You have a harder time putting a living, breathing, character, a humanoid in a vulture droid, right? Since those are harder to do. They do have some that are adapted for biologicals or whatever, but you have a harder time doing it. So it much more easily works here. My guess was Asajj Ventress or this dude. I actually was really expecting another squadron too. I was expecting Jango Fett. So, but this was definitely one of my thoughts. It was the Belbalub here. But Wat Tambor works also because he's an X-Wing. He's also in a Belbalub. So you've already got the, you've got artwork for that you can use already. You've got the Lucasfilm signed off on, yes, you can publish Wat Tambor in a Belbalub for X-Wing. So it shouldn't be that much of a stretch. Like, hey, can we kind of piggyback off of that previous agreement and also put him in Armada? I imagine that would be much easier to do than to put Asajj Ventress in a Belbalub, for example, which I don't think she was ever actually in. So, of course she could be in one. Either way, it's cool. We don't have no idea what he'll do. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully he will lead to... I kind of hope he supports more of a squadron-based build. Maybe he can support bombers a little bit for the Separatists. I don't want him to be so good that he's like an auto-include in every Separatist list, but hopefully he'll kind of add a new archetype or add support for a new archetype of list within the Separatists. It's kind of what I'm hoping for, and I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So that makes 4 cards. We know that Rapid Reinforcements 1 had 7 cards. This one's going to be smaller in scope. We're probably just getting 4 cards. But I really, really, really hope we get one more card. And I hope that's a Separatist commander. Wat Tambor also, alternatively, would make a great Separatist commander that could support the squadron game, could support droids. I hope there's more than just what we're seeing here. 5 cards would still be smaller in scope than 7. And also it would give some synergy, or rather symmetry, to the build. This would mean everybody gets 1, Separatists get 1 extra card, but hey, they were down a card from Rapid Reinforcements 1, so that's okay. But it would kind of feel awkward to me to have a new commander for the Republic, but not a new commander for the Separatists. I think they need one too, maybe not quite as glaringly as the Republic needs one, but they need a commander that's going to help the squadron game. Now, it's possible that Wat Tambor can kind of do that from the position of a squadron, but I really would rather see Wat Tambor as a commander, or at least another Separatist commander. It doesn't have to be Wat Tambor himself, but he seems like a pretty likely person to show up. Those are some of my thoughts, though. I want to hear what you guys think. I'd love to hear. I feel like you could also go with Geonosians. I feel like you could do a Geonosian commander. You could do like Pago the Lesser. Could certainly work as a Separatist commander too. I mean, he was one of the lead people at like the Battle of Geonosis. The ships were taking off and stuff, so he's got some. They were building ships and stuff. Like, I feel like it could work. I feel like you got enough cinematic closeness to justify that being a thing. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I think Wat Tambor is probably the best option for new Separatist commander. Hopefully there's more than just 4 cards, but we got to be prepared. It might only be 4. Heck, could only be 3, and this could just be teaser artwork. But I don't believe this artwork is here as a coincidence. So it's pretty cool. I want to hear what you guys think, though. Do you think this will be the last Rapid Reinforcements? Do you think there'll be a Rapid Reinforcements 3? As it looks like right now, where this would make, we got an Armada Rapid Reinforcements 1 in April of last year. So if we get it, this spring or summer, then that would be about a year between Rapid Reinforcements, and I could probably handle a new drop for Armada once a year. Especially if they're talking about it in advance, because this is a great way to keep the hype going, as opposed to just waiting for drop day and then dropping it, catching us all by surprise. Letting us talk about things, speculate, and discuss until the release date. Very, very good way to go. So hopefully Governor Price gets changed a little bit to not be so broken with those Onager ignition attacks. And hopefully we get, a Separatist commander. If not now, then hopefully soon, because that would be really, really groovy. A new commander is exactly what the Clone Wars factions both need. honestly, they could probably use like 2 new commanders and some new ships and a lot of other stuff too. I'd love to see that down the road. But I want to hear you guys' thoughts. Let me know what you think. I'm really glad AMG they've been listening to feedback. They are still not in a position to do the whole ship waves that we really want, but it's a step. It's an improvement, right? I mean, look, I know there's a lot of critics, a lot of you out there that have a lot of negative things to say. I've been in your shoes. I've come through that tunnel, and I'm out on the other side now. But I remember what it felt like, and I think if nothing else, we have to acknowledge that talking about Armada and building this up, and also providing stores with prize support for store championships, this is an improvement. They've been talking to us more. They've been listening to us more. And they may not be in the position to do all the things we want them to do, but I'm seeing improvements, and that's the optimist in me. So I encourage you to find the bright side in your gaming hobbies, because we're doing these things to have fun. And hey, Rapid Reinforcements 2 is going to bring a lot of new gameplay and a lot of new meta and shenanigans and stuff. So I'm excited to see it. All right, guys, that's all I've got for today. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make this channel possible. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. So say we all. You can't take the sky from me. Cowabunga. And always wash your socks.